This is a very intriguing group here, so instead of stumbling on any explanation about what exactly you're all doing here, I'm going to ask Sister Sherry to explain to us, first of all, before we get into a conversation, about what exactly your ladies group here is and why you came together.
We came together by chance, as most good things do. We were going to a lecture in Ramadan, and my friend Dania was translating for us. And it was so nice because first of all, we understood what was going on. We got a lot out of it. So I said to Dania, could you do this for us all the time, please? He said, I don't know what I'm doing. I said, Dania, we're all Islamic dummies compared to you. So, anything you tell us is going to be more than we know already. So we called ourselves the Islam for Dummies group before it was copyrighted. So we just literally wanted to know more. So we read we got together every Monday, and Dania very kindly gave us lectures. And then after a year, we decided we weren't Islamic dummies anymore, that we called ourselves the Fitra group, which stands for Faith, Integrity, Truth, Righteousness and Application. And we still meet every week, and we're a mixed bunch of foreigners who've reverted to Islam, some on the fence still, and some Saudis who've been brought up Muslim. So.
Well, for me, we've been traveling around the Muslim world, and one of the things that we've been looking at is women's conditions in the Muslim world. And I think for me it would be interesting to hear maybe some of your ideas about what it is being in a country that obviously from the outside, people that look at Saudi Arabia often have very distorted views about it from the outside. And obviously there's, like any country, there's a lot of room for improvement, but there's also a lot of amazing qualities to this country, obviously. And I think women's issues are a key issue now because there's an immense amount of focus on Saudi Arabia, and it's looked at as this backwater of some kind of medieval attempt at keeping women in some suppressed, repressed, depressed condition. And so I'm just wondering maybe if you want to start off by addressing some of those issues.
First of all, to marry a Saudi, generally you have to change your religion. It's not really a choice. So I didn't change my religion, honestly, because I wanted to. I just wanted to marry my husband. So, you have to change your religion. So I spent a good many of the first years here just on that basis. I was happy as a Christian, and I want me to become a Muslim. Okay, same God, same prophets, I can do that. It was, it's fairly straightforward. And then after, I think it did take me about 10 years or so, I thought it would be a good idea to read the Quran. So then when I read it, then I started to think, this makes sense, and I understood a lot more. But honestly, as a role model for a country, I wouldn't come here and think, wow, Islam is wonderful, I think I'll be a Muslim, frankly. What I've seen has not impressed me. So it's really been my own research and the information I've got from other like-minded people. You have to really dig hard to find these sort of people that's helped me come on and go further down the road.
I appreciate that Anglo-Saxon...
Ask me a straight question, you get a straight answer.
That kind of clarity and honesty. I think that could generally be said about almost every Muslim country in the world. There's a famous statement that many converts have made: thank God I came to know Islam before I came to know the Muslims.
Yeah.
I mean, there is...
It's a shame, isn't it?
Well, it is a shame, and it's a shame particularly because the Quran makes it very clear that one of the things that Muslims are meant to be is shuhada ala nas, witnesses unto humanity. And kuntum khayra umma ukhrijat linnas. You're the best community that has come forth for humanity. تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. And then these three qualities that you enjoin virtue, you condemn vice, and you believe in God. And this is what gives you this extraordinary position. And I think a lot of Muslims assume that this is like a birthright. That it's what I call the chosen people syndrome. It's that God's chosen us and we're better than everybody else because we know La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, which is a big thing to know, but on the other hand, like you said, when we fail to really implement those things, and especially, I think, for a woman coming from the West and then coming into a Muslim culture where there's a lot of things that I think Muslims really don't think about that are very cultural. And I'll give you one example. My sister, we were once in a gathering, and there was a man, he's an Arabian man, and the time came, they wanted to separate the thing, and he went to the women. He said, you know, can you go outside, please? And he literally went like that. And my sister, you know, she's from California. She was just like so insulted. He didn't mean to insult her, you know, and he was actually, when I explained to him how offended she was, he was really, what did I do? You know, it wasn't something that he was just consciously aware of. It was more just kind of a, you know, just, cultural. It's cultural and it's an attitude, and one has to question how Islamic that is, you know.
Yeah. I'd like to add to this from my own opinion, because I've only been here for 2 years.
Okay.
And I've actually had sort of the opposite experience.
Good,
and throughout my life, actually, because I came to Islam through the Muslims that I met. I might be one of the minorities who did, but throughout my life and through many different Muslim countries, I have really met the most amazing people.
But did you come from a Christian background, or what background?
I came from a non-practicing Christian background. You know, the first Muslims that I met were very intelligent, progressive, practicing Muslims. And since I've been here, honestly, the Muslims that I've met, the girl sitting next to me being one of them, have really been amazing people.
Mashallah.
And there's something about Saudi Arabia too that I know that there are cultural elements at work that are non-Islamic, but I love the fact that there's one country on earth that's really trying, at least outwardly, to maintain and stick to the Sunnah and the Quran, and I really appreciate that.
No, I really appreciate that comment, and it highlights something, because I think both these comments are very useful, and I don't think it's a matter of the cup's half full or the cup's half empty. There's something about experience. And what we've seen is consistently on this journey that people have very different experiences, and those experiences really color how they view and how they perceive things. You know, the whole planet, I think, in a lot of ways, we're going through a very bad time just for humanity. It's a difficult time. And the Muslims really do represent a people that are trying to cling to this thing. They're having a hard time, and the Prophet ﷺ said that holding on to religion in the latter days would be like holding on to a hot coal. So I'm always impressed with, you know, for me, when I see women in hijab in the West, I just have so much just respect, you know. Because it's just, I know what my wife goes through. You know, just, it's just very difficult, you know, and she does it with that dignity and believing that this is what Allah wants from her. And so I just, you know, I have an immense admiration for the level of commitment in this religion that I still see, in spite of the fact that so many people are just abandoning God. I really think that the women in this country really need to wake up. I just feel that there's so much wasted energy on like the latest tatriz of the abaya.
But why is that happening? We have to question it.
No, this is a human condition. This happens everywhere. You take any 100 people anywhere the world over, 99% of them are going to be focused on their material pursuits.
No, but I think also
but see,
action.
but see, this ummah has a special dispensation. We're not meant to be. The Quran makes it very clear that there's people that are focused on dunya and there's people that are focused on akhirah, and they're you know, I mean, they're very different groups.
Or you can be
and
both,
so
right?
I don't totally. I mean, I accept that for people that. That's their life, al-hayat ad-dunya. But Allah is warning us, you know, la taghurrannaka. You know.
But we also have the balance, right, Sheikh Hamza? I mean, you can.
Well, no, exactly.
Yeah,
لا تنسى نصيبك من الدنيا. I mean, there's the world. The Prophet ﷺ encouraged, and Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayya said yesterday that there's a place for entertainment, for tarfihiyya, you know, for a vacation,
Right.
relaxing, all those things have a place. But when the centrality of your life is the pursuit of, you know, trinkets, you know, and material, I mean, I have a real problem with that.
I also would like to say something about this whole fad and, you know, fashion. I was speaking to someone, and she was, you know, experiencing polygamy, and she was first wife, and there's a second wife, and it was interesting because I said, you know, why do you think, you know, your husband did this? And she said, because maybe it's, you know, it's just something, the fad or the fashion that's happening. So, I mean, like, women are busy with something maybe because they're empty, maybe. I mean, you have men maybe that are busy,
No, absolutely. They're busy
with the
with the World
Misyah
Cup
or,
right
or
now.
the World Cup, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I'd like to ask a couple of questions to just clarify, because I think one big problem in the Arab world is, and one way they use to oppress women, okay, is by using Islam. For example, when they say, example, al-mar'a habl al-shaytan, hadiths like that. When they say, well, we don't have to have a reason for polygamy. We can just marry. We don't have to answer to you. We can just marry whoever we want. When they say, well, most women are going to hell. When they say, example, if God said if he would have anyone bow to anyone other than him, it would be your husband.
Right.
So all these things kind of...
they're used as means of manipulating and controlling. The Prophet ﷺ said, I've been made to love from this world women sent and the delight of my eye and my prayer. And his statement, loving from the world women, has nothing to do with lust. He loved the qualities that women embody. And the Prophet ﷺ, I mean, he loved their riqqa, you know, the gentleness and the fact that they wept easier than men. All those aspects, rahmah, the fact that it's a source of rahmah in the world. The fact that women are the source of ensoulment. Our souls come into the world through the womb. I mean, that's where we entered the world as a soul that Allah has created to be eternal, you know, to be infinite. So the Prophet ﷺ loved those. There are many beautiful hadiths. Unfortunately, those hadiths are all ignored for about 6 hadiths. I mean, somebody actually identified them. There's about 6 hadiths that would be problematic. Most of those hadiths, for me, there are interpretations of them, and we can go into apologetics, which I really don't want to go into that right now, but I totally agree with you that these hadiths are used to manipulate. When we asked Dr. Hiba in Egypt about, you know, ما خرجت امرأة من بيتها إلا استشرفها الشيطان, that a woman doesn't come out of her house except shaitan will cause her, you know, to appear to the men. She said, طيب, beware, men, you know, get over it, you know. Lower your eyes, just be aware that you're attracted to women and you have to deal with that. Be aware that that's, you know, look at in politics, how do men scandalize themselves in politics? Money, sex. So men have a problem. It's a problem, and there's a warning there. It's not that a woman's shaitan or that she's manipulated by shaitan. No, it's that men, the Prophet ﷺ said, I haven't left a seduction more dangerous for my ummah, for my men, than the women. So it's just a warning. Be warned. Don't be alone with a woman. Lower your gaze. Don't objectify her sexually. Those are all the teachings of Islam. So to me, it's just looking at men as they are and dealing with the fact that, yes, men do have some problems in those areas. And if they don't learn to control those problems, they're going to be in a very compromised situation and dangerous. But I mean, I saw a study in the U.S. They did a study where they had women, a young woman, attractive woman, go to men at a university, and they would invite them back to their apartment. Almost all the men, let's go. And then they did the same thing with an attractive young man, went to the women, and none of the women is like, you know, it's like, so there, I mean, there's a real difference. And that's the point. If you don't have some internal mechanisms that are preventing you, from just becoming a shahwani, from becoming bestial, I mean, that to me is what those are about. They're just warning men and to respect the women. The Prophet ﷺ said, "La yuhinuhunna illa la'im." You know, nobody degrades a woman except a degraded man. You know, I mean, that in itself is a proof of that he's degraded. The fact that he degrades a woman, that he objectifies her, that he sees her as a sexual object, that he sees her as you know, mata', that's all there is. You know, so I think it's a real problem in the understanding.
It's true, it's a warning to men. But what I realize, and I think this is partly what I understand your comment was, is that the responsibility has become totally on the woman.
I know.
And they keep on forcing these
The Quran is very clear
right.
that it's the onus is on both. قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغْضُوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِم. Tell the believing men to lower their gaze, tell the believing women to lower their gaze. وَحِفْظُوا فُرُوجُهُم. At the root of Islam is equity. It's really about adala. It's about justice. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He's just, and He says His deen is just. And I think, I mean, I totally submit to the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I recognize that much of what we call the Sharia it's human attempts at understanding principles, divine principles. So there is a lot of room. I mean, there are different fuqaha, there are different opinions, there are different views. And if we don't really begin to recognize that there is a diversity of opinion, it's a real problem. When I really believe that my way of understanding Islam is the only way, that is so alien to the Islamic tradition. It's a much deeper tradition than that. But I really think we need women to seriously study the Sharia, to learn the Sharia at a deep level. And
we've met some of them.
We have met some of them. And I think that there's just, it's an exciting time in that the possibilities for women in some ways have never been greater in the history of Islam. The onus is on people to become more educated in their religion. You know, I think a lot of us are at the mercy of whoever our source of knowledge is, and sometimes the sources of knowledge are not very broad-minded. They're taking very constricted views about the Sharia. And Ibn Uyayna radiallahu anhu said, "Al-fiqhu rukhsatun an thiqa, wa amma tashdid fayahsinuhu kullu ahad." That real fiqh is making things easier by trustworthy sources. As for being harsh, anybody's good at that. You know, anybody can make things hard on people. And so the real spirit of Sharia is that muruna and that flexibility and sa'a. On the other hand, you don't want the thing just to unravel to where you don't. That's what happened to the Christians. You know, they don't have a religion anymore because they just kept compromising and compromising until the whole thing just fell apart. If you study Islamic history, what you'll find is women have always worked. Women have been in the fields. They've been in commerce, they've been just in all, you study the tabaqat literature and you'll see the women were in all fields of endeavor. In bourgeois societies, historically, women were in the homes. You know, that's whether you're in the West. In the West, in Britain, women have always worked. I mean, women, look at all the pictures in the 19th century of those women in those factories sewing and doing those things. Women have always worked, but it was the lower class women that worked. The upper class women had garden parties and sat around drinking tea and talked about how wonderful it was that they didn't have to work in the factory. You know, that's always existed. Now what's happened is there's a lot of people have interpreted Islam, you know, what I would call bourgeois Islam, and tried to apply it to everybody. So there's a lot, I think, of just really misinterpretation based on trying to universalize particular situations, to say this applies to all Muslims at all times. It's just not true. And so I think in terms of role, these are very dangerous things. I've read untold number of books on women in Islam and blah, blah, blah. I hate those books. But, you know, they always say the primary role of women is for childbirth. Where is that? Where is that in the Quran? I've never seen that. I've never seen a hadith that says that, the primary role of a woman. The primary role of a woman is to know her Lord, just like the primary role of a man is to know his Lord. I mean, there's no difference. مَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Al-ins there is men and women. I created them to know me. If you look at the Quran, there are verses in the Quran that clearly talk about musawat, that men and women are the same. إِنَّ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُسْلِمَاتِ وَالْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. I mean, those verses are just, they're all the same. And then there are verses that talk about the takamuliyah, that men and women, ba'duhum min ba'd, you know, they need each other. You know, awliya, you know, they help each other. And then there's verses that talk about the differences, that there are differences. The wet nursing, the menstruation, the iddah. You know, I mean, the iddah is a female situation, not a male situation. The inheritance. You know, so there are verses that talk about these differences, and those are the verses in which you can determine the Quranic worldview about male-female roles. But that's the limit of it. Everything else, I mean, males and females can all do the same things and are capable of the same things. I mean, there's no difference in that way. Aisha was one of the most important fuqaha of the early period. And the tradition says, take half of your religion from this light, fair-skinned woman. You know, and the Sahaba went to her in really difficult questions. And some of the Sahaba considered her actually most knowledgeable of all the Sahaba. There are male Sahaba that considered Aisha to be the most knowledgeable of all the Sahaba after the Prophet ﷺ. So she had that role. She led an army. So I appreciate all of you allowing us this opportunity to share your thoughts and allow me to share my thoughts. I hope it's been useful, and may Allah give you tawfiq and patience, and also guide you in what you're trying to do, and make bring your works to a good fruition, inshallah, something that Allah and His Messenger are pleased with. So thank you very much, and jazakumullah khair.
We usually end our lectures with a dua. Sherry, would you please make a dua?
Or Sheikh Hamza make a dua. Sheikh Hamza maybe make a dua.
I just did. وفقكم الله إن شاء الله وبارك الله في جهودكم وسدد خطاكم وإن شاء الله اللهم اجعل عملهن عملا يرضيك ويرضي رسولك صلى الله عليه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.